What's up, guys? It's boy Justin here with another graphic novel review. Uh, Normally, I would be reviewing a DC superhero book. That's how my rotation works for the new subscribers. I do DC, Marvel, and then Indie. Indie being like Image, Dark Horse, Titan, IDW, whatever, right? And usually I would do Wildstorm as well because they're not superhero books, but everybody knows Wildstorm is DC, so it would be confusing for my new subscribers if if I just reviewed like a Wildstorm book in the indie slot. Though the reason why I usually do that is because Wildstorm is mostly not superheroes. Yes, I know the Wildstorm series exists, but I normally I don't just like the last Wildstorm book I reviewed had like no superheroes, which was Aerosmith. So yeah, today we're reviewing the classic sci-fi series Planetary Volume 1, All Over the World, and Other Stories. And for some reason, I thought this was a space opera comic book series, when really it's pretty much like X-Files with like kind of superhero stories. Which they're not technically superheroes, but it has like a superhero feel. Series was created by Planetary, was created by Warren Ellis and John Cassaday. It started in like 1999. Holy crap! This collects issues 1 through 6, and there's an introduction by Alan Moore. I didn't read the introduction, but like holy crap, those characters remind you of anybody, by the way. Oh my god, I can't believe that. But yeah, like I first heard about this series from my favorite video game podcast, Wacky Gamer Podcasts, and Adam McLaughlin was a huge fan of Warren Ellis. He's a huge sci-fi fan, and I'm in the sci-fi mood, so I thought I'd check this out. I thought this series was back in print. My comic book guy told me it was back in print. Turns out it may or may not be back in print, which like sucks because there's only 4 volumes, not including the Batman crossover. So after reading this, I definitely want to read all the books. But yeah, the book starts off with our character here, Chiquita Wagner, meeting Elijah Snow, who is almost 100 years old, and is basically immortal, who gets recruited to this organization called Planetary that are basically like these group of people that investigate like weird occurrences, and they're trying to find out the secret history of the 20th century because there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And this character's superpowers is basically she has like kind of super speed and strength. He, aside from being immortal, can manipulate like temperature, and which comes in handy. And you have our third member of the team, which is called the drummer, who basically has Mr. Terrific's powers, but instead of being invisible to technology, he can just talk with technology. So isn't there a character like that in that Brian K. Vaughan comic book, Ex Machina or something? Yeah. So the first case they work on and here's where the first issue, where I like the first issue, but it had like this thing where it's like almost where like somebody told me, not somebody told me this, but like I watched a video where somebody's explaining criticism, and if a story is bad, where the events of the story would have happened if would have occurred, it would have the same conclusion if our characters didn't get involved, right? So here they find this guy in this secret hideout whose legs are all shriveled up, and it's very much his name is Axel Brass or Doc Brass, and he's been in this cave for since 1945, and we're safe to assume it's like 1999. Oh no, it is 1999. And turns out this guy besides from being an obvious like Doc Savage inspired character, he led a team of superheroes back in the 40s, and you have like this doctor. You have this Shadow ripoff. You have the I don't know. I think he's supposed to be Alan Quartermain. This guy's name is Edison. This guy's the aviator. This guy's like a spy, and that's obviously supposed to be based. This guy's obviously supposed to be based off Fu Manchu, but his name is Hark. And they created a machine. They were trying to basically save the world. They formed a secret society, and they created this machine that's basically a portal, or sorry, a window to the multiverse. And what happened? And you have this Nietzsche fake where if you stare into the abyss will stare back at you. They stared into the abyss, and a group of superheroes, which are basically inspired by the Justice League, stared back at them and tried to conquer the world, and they got basically wiped the heck out, except for our main character. So yeah. So that's where it's kind of like, oh yeah, like they could have just sent like a recon team. They didn't. Our field team did not need to go themselves, because you would have had the same events, like the same thing would have happened like anyway. But that's where in the fifth and sixth issue, where actually all these stories do tie up. So yeah, this issue 2, is. I think it's called Island Zero, and this issue was very much inspired by Japanese tokusatsu films like Godzilla, Mothra, where you have this revolutionary Japanese writer who plans to take over Japan, goes to Island Zero, where there is, which the story's called The Island. Where they encounter giant monsters, and that's obviously Mothra. There's a monster that looks like Godzilla. There's a monster that looks like, there's a dead King Ghidorah, and then you see a Rodan. And this is where we get introduced to, like, where we show, like, oh, actually 2 of our characters have superpowers. There's the dead Godzilla. So this was a pretty cool issue, but yeah, at the end, again, like, you would have, like, there's the Rodan ripoff, but yeah, it's the thing where, like, yeah, everything would have been okay if our characters haven't been there. But yeah, here you see, like, our characters using their superpowers. Because there is a team of, like, guards there that would have dealt with the revolutionaries. You see her using her superpowers here. And I kind of hate this when artists use the same panel and reuse the same panel and just make slight, like changes. I find this very lazy, and even like there's a very famous issue of like Invincible by Robert Kirkman, and I forget the artist's name, where they kind of make fun of this. But here it kind of gets a pass because this is them establishing that this character has super speed. So okay. So the next issue, this issue is very weird. Like this issue where they were like obviously inspired by John Woo films, and it's about this, like, there's this ghost of this dead Hong Kong cop who's going around killing criminals. And they go to investigate it, and they get the cop's backstory. It gets a little, like, 90s, 2000s era sci-fi cringe, where, like, a lot of sci-fi back in the 90s and 2000s, and you see this a lot in, like, like, basically everybody was atheist back then. Like, a lot of sci-fi people were atheists. Nowadays I don't think so. And like back in the 90s and 2000s, a lot of sci-fi pushed atheism, right? So here they kind of push atheism, where, yeah, despite the fact that this guy's a ghost, there's no, like, he's like, there's no afterlife. We only have, like, today. and like he's only alive because there's like a machine buried in Hong Kong that basically captures people's like souls into data or some shit. So it's oh my god, I don't know. And then, and the guy gives this speech at the end. Why you people came looking for a mystery, but there's none. There's just us. And the drummer's like, did he say justice? He's like, no, just us. So that was a good that was a good issue. But yeah, it's like, oh my god, cringe 90s sci-fi. They're always pushing the atheism, which I think it's Arthur C. Clarke started that. But if you read like Arthur C. Clarke, it's like a lot of his. I read 2 Arthur C. Clarke books, and I'm like, I'm never reading Arthur C. Clarke book again, because despite the fact that they both were different series, right? They both ended the same, which was like humans transcending to become gods, right? So it's like, what the hell? So yeah, this issue is basically about this guy who works for the Hart Corporation. Stumbles upon this ship, this crashed alien ship that goes around traversing the multiverse, and it needs here we see Doc Brass again, and it chooses this guy to become a part of its new crew, to find 6 other people so the ship can leave our Earth and go back to where it came from. But it needs 7 crew members, and this guy tries to recruit the team. He also transforms, but yeah, he tries to recruit Planetary to join his mission. And the guy's like, yeah, fuck that. In issue 5, we get Doc Brass's backstory, and how they talk about how they have a lot of things in common. So that was cool. It's very much homaging Doc Savage, which why hasn't Warren Ellis written Doc Savage comics? I'm sure they would be really good. But yeah, I kind of wish this guy had joined the team, but obviously he can't because his legs are crippled. Despite the fact that the guy's immortal and was able to figure out how to make himself immortal, how not to eat food, how to heal, he can't, he doesn't have Wolverine style regeneration. So this issue was very good, where it's it actually hints at an ongoing plot, and I really enjoyed this issue until I realized, oh yeah, they're ripping off the people they're fighting, who they set up as the main bad guys for Planetary is basically an evil Fantastic Four, and they fight the Human Torch at the end. Oh bye. And also, there's a bonus issue where Warren Ellis does their own take, his own take on the Incredible Hulk. But in this world, they kill the Incredible Hulk. So what did I think about this graphic novel? Obviously, I liked it because I complained how that I was told this series was back in print, and then it turns out maybe it might not be back in print. But I don't know. I can't get a hold. I'm going to the comic book store today. He said he has volumes 2 and 3. Hopefully he still has volumes 2 and 3 when I still get there. So obviously I want to finish the series. It's only 4 volumes. Hopefully I can get volume 4. But yeah, my main critiques for this, and my dog's barking, is that I like the art, I like the story, I like the characters, but it's not until the end where where the story, where it actually feels oh yeah, what they're doing does kind of have meaning. And I was talking about this with my buddy, Not Only Hollywood. Oh my god, I gotta shut up yeah, sorry about that. So my main critique for this graphic novel is that basically, and I was talking about this with my friend Not Only Hollywood, where I was watching this South Korean show, and it became pretty obvious that almost every episode they were ripping off a movie, even the episodes where I didn't know the movie, you could tell, oh yeah, they're ripping off a movie. So I kind of was getting that here, where they were kind of ripping off, like, you know, like almost every issue they were kind of ripping off something. So I kind of don't like that. It kind of like lacks. I'm not saying once in a while you can't pay homage to something, but that's kind of like the same reason why I stopped. I tried rewatching X-Files. You know, like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago. And I kind of stopped watching it because, like, besides from episodes that were about the main plot, which I enjoyed those episodes the most, almost every episode where it was like a monster of the week, they were ripping off like a horror movie. And some of the horror movies I kind of want to watch, like The Hidden. They ripped off The Hidden. I'm like, man, I kind of want to watch that movie. Oh, so yeah, that I was kind of getting that vibe here. But besides from that, it is good, and hopefully maybe later on they stop doing that. But from what I've heard, that Volume 1 is the best. So it's like, I don't know, but we'll give Volume... You know, I kind of, like I said, I kind of want to stop reading, like, you know, like random stuff. I want to read complete series. So I am going to finish the series. I enjoyed, like, this is an 8 out of 10. Basically. So it's like, if it's an 8 out of 10, it's worth obviously continuing the series. So yeah, that's it for this review, guys. There's a poll for the next book review, next graphic novel review. And if we get one more like on my Vampire Chronicles book review, we'll do a poll for next month's book review, which is going to be Sci-Fi, because I'm in the sci-fi mood. Peace out.